Whoa, let's learn stuff. Let's learn about product strategy from chapter 8.
So first thing I want to start with is value proposition. So I'm referring to a concept that was reintroduced in chapter 8, but it was actually something that you might remember writing about uh, in your marketing plan paper in assignment 4, and then also reading about in chapter 1. So value proposition, just so we could all have the same definition, is a consumer's perception of the benefits they'll receive if they buy a good or service. So that's one of the key words there, right? Consumers, or the key word is perception in this case. It's always just really what is it that they think about your product, whether it's true or not. Well, that's a whole other thing, right? And maybe that's where marketers might get in trouble sometimes. Is like, when they promote a product or when they create those ads or whatever, maybe they're being deceptive potentially, right? So, but there are two aspects to that. So in chapter 8, they reminded us of those two parts to that. Number one, and I'll go ahead and go back to this also since I mentioned it. So yeah, in your assignment for your first writing assignment, there was a section on there, unique proposition. So really your proposition, how did I put it? Value proposition, unique proposition, that's that part there. So maybe this would be like a good time for you to take a look at what you wrote there to remind yourself of what is it that you wrote about, and think about, well, how do people perceive the product that you're trying to market? And that's certainly interesting also to think about if you are doing a marketing plan about yourself also, right? So two sides to this value proposition. First one is marketers need to create a better value than what's out there. So you really, right, that's the whole point that you're in business, is that you want to offer something that you think is better than everything else out there. And that's what you want your customers to think, because that's going to be one of the reasons why they'll buy your product. And certainly there are many things that would influence why somebody or whether somebody would buy a product, but this would be a big one. Is, well, if your customer thinks it's better than alternatives, then of course they're going to consider yours first. And then the other part to that is to actually convince your customers that whatever it is they think about your product, whether that it's good or it's bad, you want to convince them that it's true. I guess in this case, if you're trying to reach out to them, you want them to believe that it's true. So just think about the products that you buy, for example. Why do you buy that brand of car? Or why do you buy that, whatever it is, appliance or clothes? It's because they made some kind of value proposition to you that you believe. Like, let's say clothes, for example. Maybe you believe that clothes are just much better if you buy them from Lululemon versus the athletics department or whatever of Target or Walmart, right? So those kind of things. So then that got me thinking about an example. So I don't know. Oh, that's not early 200s. That's 2000s. So have you all ever heard, for those in the room, have you all ever heard of Flex Play? Okay, so Flex Play was from the early 2000s. So you kind of have to think about, well, what was the deal with the early 2000s? Well, back in the day, when we wanted to watch a movie, we would have to go to this thing we called Blockbuster or Movie Gallery, right? So DVDs, we had to go to a store to actually rent DVDs if we wanted to watch them, or if we didn't own it, right? So this company decided, okay, well, we're going to create value for our customers who don't really like the inconvenience of having to return these movies. Because if you rent a movie, let's say at Blockbuster, especially a new release, they typically just give you 1, maybe 2 days to watch those. And then if you don't return it, you get late fees. And then there's even more fees, like if we're talking about VHS, right? VHS tapes, if you don't rewind it, all that. So FlexPlay in the early 2000s decided, okay, well, for a price, we will allow customers to buy their DVDs. And the thing with them is, they're like in a special kind of package, I guess. And so once you open it, then you have 2 days to watch it because the DVD will start deteriorating. So that kind of took care, like, because the whole reason of renting something is you pay not as much as if you were buying the whole DVD, right? Or not the whole DVD. I meant like the DVD itself. But yeah, this thing right here, I guess, is kind of a hybrid of that whole idea to where you don't ever actually own it because eventually it will deteriorate to where after 2 days you can't play it. So of course, they thought that was a great idea. But backing up to this whole thing that we've been doing in our marketing plan paper, it's about doing our assignment, really getting to know what is it about our product that makes it unique, what's our value proposition, who's our target audience, what did they find important. So I would almost say, I want to say that FlexPlay maybe didn't do their homework because they may not have thought about like, okay, fine, it sounds good on paper, but like what do you think was one problem if you all had to think about it? Like what's one issue that people might have with that whole model of DVDs deteriorating? It just becomes an expensive coaster basically, right? Like just something useless. And so again, they took an idea that they thought was good but didn't think about, okay, well, it's just going to be trash after that. And of course, environmentalists had a problem with that. And I think even people who may not be, your traditional environmentalists who would really be all out about that, they had a problem with that too because now there's just all this trash. And so it just didn't become a thing. And I never even actually tried it myself. I heard about it, but then by the time I heard about it, it was over. So but I thought that was just a whole interesting thing there about just a story, I guess, about value proposition, really thinking about it's not enough to come up with a solution that you think is great for your customers. It really has to be something that is valuable to them. So that's kind of the lesson there. So as you're thinking about yourself, your marketing plan immediately for this class, but then in the future, just if you're ever in a marketing role or just if you can help your organization out in their marketing, or if you were going to run your own business, you would be the one responsible for the marketing role. That's just really an important aspect to think about is your value proposition. And then are you really offering that value? Is it something that people would be willing to pay for? So that leads me to chapter 8, which is all about the product strategy. And in fact, chapter 9 is also about product strategy, but I'll just stay with this concept that's covered in chapter 8. So we get to the idea of a product. And, as you know from your marketing plan paper, it's also product or service. So I took the definition that was in the textbook. That's what this is. These are really all the different parts that make up what a product is. And this is why, going back to what I said at the beginning of this lesson, this thing that I'm talking about now, this is one of the more interesting things for me to think about when it comes to a product. And this is really going back to my days working at a marketing agency. This is really what's helped me come up with all those ideas for marketing campaigns, because I don't just think about like whatever that physical product is, whether it's so thinking about our clients. Let's see, we had one of them was Walther Arms, so we had a firearms company. So it wasn't just that firearm, or it wasn't just we had also energy power plants, so not just the wind turbine or energy parts. So it's not just that, but it's all these different things. So I'm pointing here because that's where my screen is, but yeah, the definition given to us, it's all these different parts that make up a product. So again, think about that when it comes to your marketing plan you're working on, and then I'll go through the same list again. The organization you work for or want to work for. It's not just that product that they're selling. There's a whole aspect to it. And later on today, we'll even just use Athens State as an example as the product. So first, let's kind of unpack this definition here. So a product, okay, here we go. It's a tangible good, so something that you can actually touch and feel, or it's a service, it's an idea, or some combination of these different things that satisfies consumer or business customer needs through the exchange process. So there's a way to a business sells it and then a customer buys it. That's the exchange process there. And then there's also that distinction that it could be for the consumer market or it could be for businesses. So that's a whole other topic there, industrial marketing, because for example, Athens State, right? It's a different kind of customer for organizations versus an individual. Organizations have a different way of going about making purchases. They also, in many ways, might have more purchasing power and so on. So that's also something that's like for beginners in marketing, they forget or are not, don't realize is that, yeah, there's a whole industrial marketing side. And just think about just the volume, the amount of business that they provide for organizations. So that's why, like, if you ever want to get into sales, it would be like, I would say industrial marketing would be one of those areas that could be pretty lucrative. You can make a lot of money being a salesperson. So anyway, going back to this definition, so it's all these different parts. And then the other aspect of that is it's value added. So it's not just the product itself, it comes with many other benefits. Or I put on here, or the textbook put on there, attributes. So there's features to consider, functions, benefits, uses, brand. So there's that whole idea there. Maybe a lot of people would recognize that. Just a really common example would be remember the whole idea of conspicuous consumption, right? We buy things because it's an extension of ourselves, or a brand is, or we want to communicate something. So you want your shirt to display that logo, whatever that is, or your shoes, or you want to buy a certain car because you want to show that. And in many ways, that's tied to the brand. So that's part of the whole idea of a product. And then there's the whole packaging thing. So all of those different parts. And I was in preparation for just this whole thing that I wanted to talk to you all about tonight. I was thinking about, like, I think that's one of the reasons why, like, say when I go to a restaurant, it's not always just about the food. Even if the food was good, what determines whether I go back or not would be many other things, like the atmosphere, the service, just many different things. And in many ways, well, that makes sense because that's the whole product there. It's not just, say it was a burger place. It wasn't just the burger, it was everything about it. So does that make sense, everybody? Right? So in thinking about just marketing, there are so many pieces to it as far as convincing people to believe whatever it is that you want them to believe. You also have to deliver on that promise, right? So many things about it.